Hello, Night Nation. Trey Strelko here, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome in to Sons of UCF Live. Adam, 1-0 Knights. Feels good to be talking about actual football.
It's exactly as we drew it up, Trace, on that game a week from today, or a week ago, I guess at this point, rather, Trace. So exactly as we drew it up, but don't worry, we have that covered for you. We have two great guests tonight. We have a bunch of mailbag questions, a bunch of stuff going on. So stick with us here at the Sons of UCF. We'll have you covered for at least the next hour or so.
Of course, all week we've been talking about UCF's 17-10 win over Jacksonville State. 2-hour rain delay. Quarterback Cam Fancher knocked out. Monday, a little uncertainty from head coach Scott Frost about who would be QB1 going into the North Carolina A&T game. But, Adam, we have news this Thursday.
One big thing.
Head coach Scott Frost clarifying matters in a national interview, and we go to Andrew Cherico for that.
And just like that, Taven Jackson is the presumed Week 2 starter against North Carolina A&T after Coach Frost went on Thursday Sirius XM College Sports Radio to speak with Dusty Dvorak and Danny Cannell, revealing Cam Fancher's back injury is still lingering, likely leading him to be out in Week 2. If we go back earlier in the week, we spoke with Coach Frost on Monday and offensive coordinator Steve Cooper on Tuesday, and both revealed Taven Jackson had a new intensity about him.
You know, Taven's mentality, to be honest, after he got the news that Cam was starting, I saw an uptick in him. And, if it takes something to make him angry to get him to play the way he played, then I'm going to keep him angry all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more from what I saw from Tay. There seemed to be a new sense of urgency when we announced Cam as the starter. So, new sense of urgency. He just needs to be able to sustain that.
And as Taven Jackson receives a second chance to start, this is another opportunity for him to prove to Coach Frost why he should be the full-time starter as the Knights kick off against North Carolina A&T at home Saturday at 7 p.m. And until next time, I'm Andrew Cherico for the Sons of UCF.
Adam, Taven Jackson channeling his inner Incredible Hulk. You wouldn't want to see me when I'm angry. Is that it? I love that bite from head coach Frost.
First of all, I love Andrew Cherico recording that in the library. I think Lewis was talking in a whisper there. Yeah, listen, it's interesting, right? Because I think we were all, the choice for Cam Fancher at QB1 was something that I think a lot of us had maybe expected, but wasn't probably what we all thought months ago. And it's curious, Trace. I'm interested to find out if that was the plan all along, right? Was the plan to sort of see how somebody responds? I'll go back to what Scott Frost told us in Dallas, which was he was waiting for someone to take this job, someone to grab this job, take it, and prove to both Scott Frost, the coaching staff, but also the rest of the team that he should have been the starter. And perhaps that's what he saw out of Taven Jackson in the second half. Now, it's a risky play because some might argue, well, hey, play the best quarterback, don't play, someone to play mind games. But let's see if it all works out in the end. But I can see where there's some angst from fans who are saying, well, wait a minute, why didn't we just start this guy to begin with? Why didn't we just do this from the start? But let's see how it all pans out again. We assume Taven Jackson will get to start here on Saturday. Scott Frost said in that interview on Sirius XM, we're rolling with Taven and JB. It's assumed, though, that obviously Taven Jackson gets the ball coming out of the tunnel there. So let's see how he performs when he has a full game potentially to impress coaches and fans.
Maybe we'll see Ja'Curry Brown for a bit on Saturday. What do you think they proved to themselves in this game against a clearly overmatched North Carolina A&T? And then they have a bye week before they prepare for North Carolina. So the schedule sets up sort of interesting, right? That home opener on Thursday, a couple extra days to prepare for North Carolina A&T. It all sets up kind of interesting.
Well, I think you got to clean up some of the mistakes, right? I think that was the talk this week. Scott Frost used two words to describe this week. He wanted precision and execution. I think you got to clean up what you saw in week one. Obviously, way too many penalties. And talking to both Steve Cooper, Alex Grinch, sounds like the game plans were a little bit more vanilla, right? A little bit more stock coming out here on week one because they didn't really know what they were going to face. So perhaps they have a chance to maybe dial some stuff up from a game plan perspective. But I think you just got to be crisp, right? I think you got to kind of rough out, smooth out the edges of some of the mistakes you saw in week one. Hopefully you see some improvement there. I think we all want to see what the offensive line looks like. Can the D-line be dominant against a team that you would think we'd have an advantage against? So I think this week is I'll borrow Scott Frost, precision and execution. I think those are the two things that you want to see out of this team on Saturday.
Does a quarterback lose his job because of injury? Does Cam Fancher go the way of Brandon Wimbush in the annals of UCF? It's Christian Simmons, and I'm going to trust his math on this one. 7th quarterback to start for UCF in the team's last 15 games. May explain some of the struggles over the last stretch here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, we heard from Scott Frost and Cam Fancher was announced as the starter for Jacksonville State. It was literally on the graphic, right? So I don't think there was any anointing him the season-long starter, right? So to me, I think that means the competition was still open. Now, what we'll never know is what was the game plan for that week 1 game. Was Taven Jackson going to get some reps at some point in time? I know you asked Scott Frost about it in his immediate availability. Didn't really answer the question there. So was there always a plan to get Taven in there? I don't really know. So I look at it this way. The competition was always going on. And unfortunately for Cam Fancher, he had to leave the field due to injury, right? He had 27 plays to sort of show what he could do. Taven Jackson came in, had 46 plays to show what he can do. The competition's still alive. So while it's unfortunate that Cam had to leave the field under injury, it's still an open competition. And one of the best abilities, Trace, is availability. And so unfortunately, I think that just may be the way it goes. Now, if Cam was the week 1 starter and the season-long starter announced, I might feel different about it. But I think it was very clear from the get-go that this competition was still going to be open. And this opportunity, Taven Jackson seized what he had. And it was rough early on. Let's not kid ourselves. It was rough for a little bit of time there. But quarter 4, 8 of 11, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think Taven seized that opportunity. And it sounds like he's going to get the next crack at trying that again here against North Carolina A&T.
It was a spirited around the kingdom this week. Eric Lopez taking a definitive stance. Let me ask you 2 things that were brought up there. Did the coaching staff get this one wrong coming out of camp?
Again, it depends on what you mean by wrong. Like I think obviously what this told us is that the coaching staff felt that Cam Fancher earned the opportunity to get the first crack at this starting job. I understand if you're a fan and you say to yourself, well, wait a minute, was he the best quarterback or did he just earn the opportunity to get that first start? I think that's a philosophical thing that we can all debate as a fan base, right? But I think we're not there at practice. I don't grade every rep. I don't know what they see, but the coaches clearly felt that Cam earned the opportunity to have the first crack at winning this job. Again, it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to stay in the game for the entirety of whatever his plan was there, but I don't know that you can question it per se, and that's what the coaches decided. But this is football, Trace. And we're going to talk to somebody who's played more football than you and I combined. Typically, the cream rises to the crop, right? The best players find themselves on the field. That's generally how this happens. And it's unfortunate for Cam Fancher. Hopefully, the injury is okay. But it sounds like this may be a situation where he got first crack. It just wasn't going to work for whatever reason. And the better players sometimes gets the opportunity. And perhaps that's what we'll see with Taven Jackson. But I also want to pump the brakes because we're all saying, Taven Jackson's got to be the guy. Let's just see how this unfolds on Saturday, right? Because I don't want to anoint him so quickly and assume he's going to be the quarterback of the future. Let's just see how this plays out as he plays perhaps this upcoming week and then going forward.
I know you like reckless speculation. So here we go. Cam doesn't get hurt. This was a question Elo raised on Around the Kingdom. Do the Knights win that game with Cam Fancher quarterback? And then the other part of this is the weather delay still happens, we'll say. Do they make a change during the 2 hours that they're away from the football field?
It felt to me like at some point Frost had signaled in the first week that there was maybe a plan to play 2 quarterbacks. So I'm going to assume that at some point there was an opportunity for someone else to play and get in the game. Was that Taven Jackson or Ja'Cory Brown? We might never know that. Look, I'll say this. I think the offense was definitely constipated through the first 3 quarters. And I think Frost
that's your word of the week.
That's my word of the week in this offense. Is there a better word, by the way, for the offense than constipated? I think Frost opened the playbook, found some things he wanted to dial up. So I'm going to assume that Cam Fancher could have made those same level of throws or else he wouldn't be on this football team. So if the play calling is the same, everything else is the same, I'm going to assume that maybe Cam can make those throws. But I do think it's a fair question to ask. And I feel terribly because obviously Cam's injured and we'll never know this, but I think it's a fair question to ask. But I'd like to hope that he could have made those same plays that Taven made with the calls that Frost and the staff made.
Of course, quarterback, the big subject of conversation amongst Knights fans since the home opening win over Jacksonville State. And then I'd say right close to that is the play of the offensive line. So who better to bring in to talk about offensive line playing than former UCF lineman Ryan Swoboda, good enough to join us now on Suns Live. Welcome back in, Ryan. How are you?
What is going on? I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
I like what you texted me this week when you said, first time in my life I can really be a football fan. You were there to watch the game, which made me think, When did you start? What was the age you first played football, and what was that consecutive number of years that you played the game and didn't just get to be a fan?
Yeah, so I was a late bloomer. I started playing 10th grade, so I didn't do Pop Warner or any of that stuff. You could make me do math here, how many years I played, but it's probably 8 or 9 years total. I did, 5 years in college, 3 years in high school, 2 years in the NFL. So played quite a bit of football, and now I'm on the other side of it where when I watch a game, I could say that left tackle is terrible. Before I'd be like, give the guy a break. Like, why aren't they chipping or something, So now I could just sit back and, be a couch quarterback.
Well, let's dig into this game a little bit. You were there, you saw what we saw, but you know it from a different perspective. It was Paul Rubelt at the Monday media availability when asked what they need to improve upon and what they needed to work on. And he said pad level. All right, explain that to the rest of us, what he's referring to.
Well, Paul's like 6'11", so pad level is yeah, that's gonna be a challenge for everything. But right, pad level is just, you got a defender and then you got the offensive lineman. Generally, whoever's pads are a little bit lower is gonna have the leverage, and that's who's gonna create the pushback at the line of scrimmage. In my experience, when the season goes on, you kind of get your legs under you. Week one, it's you got all this adrenaline, you're excited, you've been squatting, you've been going through fall camp, but you can't really simulate a real game. So I've always felt the first 2-3 games you just kind of get your legs under you, and then once your legs aren't exhausted after 2 drives, that's when you see the pad level kind of sustained throughout the game. So yeah, I mean, Paul saying that the pad level needs to improve, I think that's kind of on par with how a season starts, and now you've got 80 live game reps. Next week you're gonna have 80 more, and then your legs kind of just get under you and you can consistently have that pad level. So that kind of makes sense. I kind of saw that a little bit throughout the game. Pads get high, and sometimes if you're playing an opponent that doesn't necessarily punish that, it won't show up on film, but you can tell, okay, if we're playing a top 15 team in the country, these little mistakes are going to show up. They might not show up week one, but week 8 and 9, if we don't fix it, they will show up. So yeah, that makes sense. But pad level week 1 and 2, I think, is kind of a theme across the country.
Ryan, a lot's been made about this offensive line, essentially brand new pieces coming together, Paul being kind of the mainstay of this line. We've made a bunch about that in the media and the fan base. You've played the position. How difficult is it for 5 large human beings to essentially form together quickly and become a cohesive unit?
It's so tough. And yeah, this whole line, you have 5 people who are playing next to somebody they've never really played next to. So, you have double teams, which are extremely hard because you have so much communication that's nonverbal. You have a 3 technique who's 6'5", 330 pounds, and looks like Hercules, and he's trying to run through one of you guys, and now you have to communicate with all of the stress of that, knowing who's got to come off to the back or who's got to go this, and it's complicated stuff. These schemes are hard, so sometimes you just have to have baptism by fire. That's what I call it. I don't know the age of the show, but maybe that's not appropriate, but we call it baptism by fire because sometimes you need that big 3 technique to just kind of expose those weaknesses that you have that you're not going to see in a walkthrough. And then when you see that happen and you feel the pain of, wow, we just lost a rep because we just got blown up because maybe the guard's not putting a hand out properly, or maybe the tackle isn't overlapping that B block, backside double team. I call it a B block. Isn't overlapping properly, and we just got split. So now the pain of getting blown up like that is probably the fastest way you're going to fix those kind of mistakes. When it happens in practice against the scout team, you might go, hey, dude, make sure we overlap properly. There's really no pressure there. You got 50,000 people watching you, and you just gave up a TFL. You and your guard are going to get that figured out a lot more urgently than it happening in practice.
You were in the green room and listening to Trace and I babble on about quarterback. Obviously, you've played as an O-lineman. Is there a difference between one quarterback to the next? I know we were joking pre-show that Miles Montgomery says, I don't really care. They hand the ball off the same. As an O-lineman, does it matter to you who's back there as quarterback? Does a change at that position kind of change the way that you and your teammates have to operate?
No, not really. In my opinion, I mean, obviously, if you're blocking for Joe Flacco or Lamar Jackson, there are going to be some things schematically that you do differently. But other than the cadence, you're out there running your offense. And I know my job, and the guard knows his job, and the quarterback has his job to do. And regardless of who it is, you just expect them to get it done. The only kind of challenge to it is the cadence. I don't know what Scott Frost's cadence is. Some people do a clap, some people do verbal, but if it's verbal, sometimes there are, different pitches and nuances in the quarterback's cadence that if I've gone all week listening to one guy and how he enunciates a word and now it's different on the field, that can lead to a couple of problems, but minimal, right? It's not that big of a deal. Other than that, I don't think changing quarterbacks affects the O-line too much.
It's a football cliche. You make the biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2. We say it all the time. You played the game. Truth?
Week 1 to week 2, I would agree. Like I was saying earlier, because that's the time when now you have 50,000 eyes on you instead of the 12 eyes that are in your position group watching. So the urgency to get stuff fixed is so high. I mean, we were talking earlier in the green room. I only know like 6 or 7 people left on the team. I'm old now, but I know, like, yes, the team's 1-0, but I don't think anybody in that locker room sees what happened last week as like a victory. Like that morally, like that could be considered a loss because you go 3 quarters without scoring. I don't care who you're playing as an offense. There are things that need to get fixed. So I think the urgency that you're going to see in every room, if you're not urgent right now and you're not taking every day, precisely and trying to just squeeze out every ounce of improvement in every day, I mean, what more do you want than, you have 12 games or so left to show who you are. So yeah, week 1 to week 2, that's the time that urgency is up. Before you go to the next one, I got to say, I just love talking football. I was telling you guys earlier, you guys give me a platform. I'm talking about offensive line play. I'm talking about B blocks, and like I'm getting goosebumps over here. I haven't talked about it so long. My poor coworkers hear me just gabbling on about offensive line play. So I'm glad I could talk to some people that know some O-line play. So thank you guys for having me on. But yeah, let's keep it going.
All right, so game ends, win or loss. For you, what happened next? Recovery that night? Then you start looking at film. What was your process?
I would try. It depends on what time the game is. Game ends at 3:00. Yeah, I'm watching film. I'm probably getting a little recovery in. A night game, I'll try and watch just one time through as if I'm a fan, right? I'm just watching and I'm almost watching for the entertainment. Like, oh, I remember this play, but my mind is so fried at that point from the game that I can't really digest or really analyze anything properly. I would always joke with my mom. I would finish a game and you got 70,000 people screaming and you got this adrenaline rush and you're basically getting in a bunch of car crash and fist fights for 3 hours. And then it's 1 a.m. and you drive home and you're expected to just lay in bed and go to sleep. I'm like, I can't sleep. Like, are you kidding me? Like my ears are ringing. I feel like, my head is pounding and now I'm just supposed to roll over and go to bed. So my first year starting, this would have been like 2018 or 2019. I just didn't, I'd be up to like 4 a.m. And the next day we would have practice, recovery and all of that. And I'd be dragging. So I started drinking chamomile tea after games. And Paul Rubel would actually kind of joke with me, like he'd make fun of me for it. But I love chamomile tea because it calms the nerves. I'd be out about an hour later. And that's my secret. So any players that have problems sleeping after a game, a little chamomile tea, the next day you can hit the ground running and start the film, start digesting it and getting your body right for the next week. Because it's a quick turnaround in college football. Like 7 days after a game, your knees are swollen. You feel like you can't touch your shoulders. Everything's all messed up. And it's like, okay, well, we got 3 practices. You got 3 days in the weight room. You got 48 hours to feel better. Good luck. So
how sore were you when you got home in those wee hours after a night game?
There were times when like I would wake up the next day. I would still have the adrenaline, so I wouldn't feel that bad when I went to bed. I would go up my stairs, but I'd wake up and I actually like could not get out of bed and like stand up. Like I remember just kind of rolling over and I'm like, am I being soft? Like am I just softest person? Can I not stand up right now? But no, it's brutal, but we love it. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way because I'm thinking, man, that guy that I went against, he's probably feeling worse than me right now, right? Like, yeah, sure, I can't stand, but he probably didn't even make it to the bed. Like that's how good that's what I did. Maybe that's
kind of bummed.
football players.
I'm kind of bummed we missed out on the Ryan Swoboda chamomile tea NIL deal back in your day. That would have hit differently, Ryan.
I would have
Look,
made tens of dollars, man. It would have been great.
Look, I'm a novice at football. Like, obviously, you've played more than I do, but from my view on Thursday's game, it looked like the O-line was having a little bit of challenge in the run game. Didn't seem like there were a lot of run lanes available. I know Miles Montgomery runs hard and he made some good plays, but from my view on my couch, looked like run game was a bit of a challenge. What did you see? I know you were at the game. What did you see from the run blocking from this UCF O-line?
I would agree with you. I mean, yeah, like the running game didn't look good. You go 3 quarters without scoring. Nothing's working. I would say I felt a little bit encouraged knowing that what I saw, we weren't getting like physically beat. I felt like we were physically imposing on them. I felt like we were moving people, but it was sloppy in the sense of who we were going to. We had leakage a lot of the times from what I saw, which is fixable, right? I would rather have that kind of leakage and blocking the wrong guy or maybe going to the wrong person as opposed to being physically outmanned. I felt like physically, like we looked the part. We looked strong. We were moving decently, and I thought we were nasty. But the thing is, if I'm being nasty and I'm pancaking the Will backer and, I'm putting his face in the dirt, but my assignment was a Mike backer who just made a play 3 yards in the backfield, we suck, right? So I felt like we were doing the intangibles right. I felt like we were blocking nasty and hard and physical, but were we going to the right guy? Were we preventing leakage? I would say no. And I mean, this is going to be the most coach speak thing I say, but like that's fixable. I mean, just saying it kind of grosses me out. But yes, like all of that is fixable. Like, yes, I thought we were nasty. I thought we were physical, but like were we precise in who we were going to in our assignments and our scheme, in our alignment pre-snap? I didn't think so. I don't have the playbook, but that's what I saw. So I was encouraged from that at the very least. But yeah, I would agree with you. I felt like, there were definitely times like, dude, we should just be going for 9 yards of pop right up the middle every play. One more thing to add to that, I saw we were running a ton of wide zone, which in the previous offense, we never installed wide zone. That's new. And wide zone is all the rave in the NFL. Like that's what everybody runs. And it's tough to install. Like it is a scheme that once you get it installed, it works its magic. But from an O-line perspective, it's different because you kind of break in a lot of the rules that you're taught since you were a little kid playing football or playing offensive line. You're running. Sometimes you're crossing your feet over at points, and it's just a different way of thinking about blocking. So we've installed a lot of that, which I love. And if you watch the last touchdown of the game, we're under center, wide zone to the right, and both safeties, every linebacker bit, which means that they respected it as the game went on. And that's what led to the over-the-top touchdown to win the game. So again, just establishing that and getting guys used to running wide zone, I think will help the team a lot. But I watching wide zone like brought like a little tear to my eye, like a UCF uniform running wide zone, and I think it's just going to get better and better as the year goes on.
Ryan, one of the big plays of the game, there was a Miles Montgomery touchdown call back to a hold. Charles wants to know, how did you feel after a big penalty, maybe took a touchdown off the board? I don't want to talk about Louisville 2022. We can if you want to. How do you feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel after a big penalty? What's the kind of the move as a lineman?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Louisville, and now all those happy emotions I had have gone away. No, yeah, I mean, if I held, I would say, dude, I got beat and I held and whatever. But what I found, and maybe I'm biased here, is that a lot of referees generally, I don't know if they need Invisalign or not Invisalign, LASIK eye surgery or something, but they're not the brightest. I heard they like to drink whiskey out of a plastic bottle. Something about if you just end up being a referee, maybe we looked at them funny and they weren't happy. But yeah, that's generally the thought process. Look, you never want to have a penalty. Holding calls are the most touchy-feely because my definition of holding is probably different than your guys' definition, and every referee, I can almost guarantee, probably has a little bit of a different definition of holding. So yeah, referees, they suck. You know what? I could say that now that I'm not playing anymore. I have no stake in the game. No referee's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna call back a touchdown for a holding on this guy." But I will.
Joining us from the green room, referee.
Yeah, bring him up. We'll go WWE style. We'll just wrestle it out. I will say, because we were talking about we have 5 new transfers on the line, or 5 new starters, 5 people who haven't played with each other. When I came to UCF, that was kind of a challenge for me. Now I'm working with a new O-line. I had the same O-line coach my whole career at UVA. Now I'm here. I have a new way of coaching, new players, and it's just different. And all of them were great. And I love the group, but it was so different for me. I remember I was like 2-3 games in, and I was grading out worse than I'd ever graded in my career. And I was like, dude, I just forget how to play football. Like, what is going on? But then I'm getting chemistry with Lakai, who's my right guard. Matt Lee and I understood how Matt read defenses. I understood what Coach Hand wanted schematically, what Gus Malzahn's offense needed in terms of movement, how to move vertically. Like, that's what the offense needed. And it got better and better and better as my season went on. And I think that's what's going to happen here, because it's 5 guys are in the very similar situation as to what I was in. So yes, thank you for bringing up Louisville. That was awesome.
That wasn't a hold, though, right? We're all clear that was not a hold, right?
It was not a hold. Let's pull up the tape. Yeah.
Next time you're on with us. Monday, I asked Paul Rubelt how he passed the time in the locker room with a 2-hour weather delay. He said he had 4 or 5 Jersey Mike subs, and he listened to some Metallica. What's your go-to music? How are you passing time like that in the locker room?
Go-to music. I heard politicians, they say, answer the question you wish you were asked and not the question you were asked. So I'm going to do that right here. Sorry to move your question, but I hear Paul Rubel eating 5 Jersey Mike subs. I was in a pizza eating contest with Paul. We had a pizza. It was bigger than me. It was like that big. It was for charity. We had 1 hour to finish the thing. And I just want on the record for everybody to see, because I heard Paul's been chirping, I finished my half of the pizza and Paul ended in the bathroom. So we did not complete the challenge. And I'm just saying, one of us held up our end of the deal. I'm glad I could get that off my chest in front of everybody. But yeah, so 5 Jersey Mike subs. Maybe I could see it, but in terms of pizza eating, Paul's got nothing on me. But okay, yeah, music. What a pivot here. Yeah, I listen to really everything. I've been into hip hop, country, rap. Depends on my mood. If I'm in the locker room, I kind of listen to slower stuff that just kind of calms my nerves. Because as an old lineman, I don't want to be up here and I don't want to be down here. I want to be kind of mellow. So I'd listen to Mumford and Sons. I don't know if you know those guys, but yeah, I'd listen to them because they kind of got a little in between vibe to them. And in the locker room, I would have the trainers sneak me Rice Krispie treats on the side. Like, we would have them in the locker room. Like, I don't really want one right now, but I know third quarter that Rice Krispie treat's going to be great. So I always had my trainer who would keep them in her pocket or his pocket. And yeah, that was my go-to snack during the game. I'm glad nobody's ever caught me full pads. I'd have my gloves all taped up and I'd just be Rice Krispie treating.
So no Metallica.
That's funny you bring that up. No Metallica for me. I was never a Metallica guy. I know Paul is. Paul and I went to a Metallica concert in Raymond James Stadium about 3 months ago. And I mean, he loved it. It was cool to see him. I'm kind of like, I'm watching a bunch of 75-year-olds shredding a guitar right now. I mean, sure, man, it's cool, very cool. But it was a fun event. It was.
It's been a fun event having you with us, Ryan Swoboda, former UCF offensive lineman. We'll have to have you back sometime. You don't need any chamomile tea. Just watch the rest of this half hour, and you'll go to sleep peacefully. Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, bye.
All right, you get all your O-line questions answered, Adam?
Yeah, listen, it's such a tough position, right? I think we all think we know O-line, right? Because it's like, block the guy in front of you, but I think there's so much that goes into it. So anytime someone like Ryan can make us smarter about O-line play, I think it's something we should take advantage of. So hopefully we can convince Ryan to join us again. Maybe he's gonna be mad at me for that Louisville question. So hopefully I'll send him a nice chamomile tea and a bar of Rice Krispie treats to make up for it.
Let's talk a little Big 12 football. Brett Yormark, a happy man with TCU. They saved a up and down weekend for the Big 12. We get a little recap from Jeff Allen.
As non-conference play continues, 15 of the Big 12's 16 teams will be in action. TCU gets a bye week coming off their rout of the Fightin' Bill Belichick's on Monday night. All games will be on Saturday this week. It'll kick off with 3 noon games. Number 24, Texas Tech hosts Kent State on TNT. Baylor battles SMU on the CW. And the Cy-Hawk rivalry featuring number 16, Iowa State and Iowa is the big noon game on Fox. At 3:30, Oklahoma State is visiting Oregon on CBS. Kansas travels to Mizzou, 3:30 on ESPN2. Colorado welcomes Delaware at 3:30 on Fox. Cincinnati hosts Bowling Green, 3:30 on ESPN2. West Virginia takes to the road at Ohio, 4 o'clock on ESPNU. At 6 o'clock, number 25 Utah gets a visit from Cal Poly. That one is on ESPN+. Kansas State at home against Army, 7 o'clock on ESPN. It's a Space City game as Houston visits Rice, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Number 12, Arizona State takes on Mississippi State, 7:30 on ESPN2. In Big 12 After Dark action, Arizona hosts Weber State at 10 o'clock on ESPN+. And BYU has a home date with Stanford, 10:15 on ESPN. And our Knights are hoping to move to 2-0 on the season against North Carolina A&T at the Bounce House. That'll kick at 7 o'clock on ESPN+. With your Big 12 Minutes, I'm Jeff Allen.
I'm still getting used to college football on the CW. That sounds funny to me.
Anytime Jeff says Big 12 After Dark, by the way, it always makes me chuckle. I don't know why.
You a little high-profile spot last week, maybe an ill-timed clip talking about UCF's vaunted running game with the 365 guys.
That was a tough one, but what's not tough though, if you go to 365sports.video, again, the 365 Sports newsletter is available to you. All 16 Big 12 teams represented, including yours truly, myself and Trace, representing UCF. So go 365sports.video, check that out. There's a subscribe button too if you want it in your email. Maybe it'll show up there. We're not quite sure yet, but subscribe to the email, or subscribe rather to get it in your email. But also just check out the website. It's a good stuff. If you want to continue to figure out what's happening with the rest of the Big 12, no better spot than the 365 Sports newsletter.
This time of year, one of the things I like is talking to the broadcasters who cover the games or a media member who covers a particular team. Last week, Rini Angolia, who was on the coverage of the Jacksonville State game. And you had opportunity earlier to speak with Pete Souza, who's going to be part of the broadcast crew for this weekend's game.
Yeah, Pete obviously is very ingrained in the Big 12. He's got his own show each weekday on YouTube. He's also the host of Inside the 12, which is a Thursday PM show that comes out on HBO Max and True TV. And so I had a chance to catch up with Pete. He's traveling tonight, so he couldn't join us live, but caught up with him. And my first question to him was, what did he make of Scott Frost coming back to UCF?
Initially, there was like a bit of skepticism. I think just because as I get older, that's just kind of how I think I'm wired. But then I took a beat and I thought, it's a great hire. I mean, anytime you do the recycling, it sometimes can seem a little desperate, right? But
sure.
This is not that. This is a Scott Frost who we saw glimpses of exactly who this guy is and what he can do in his first stint at UCF. And I think we saw the exact opposite at Nebraska. And I think like that is just one of those like, he gets a mulligan. And I think his hire back to UCF really was brilliant because there's two things there that I think really lend itself to this being the right hire. One, he truly is committed to UCF, right? Like now more than ever. I believe that Scott Frost, wherever his feet were, he was going to be committed and be in that moment. But the Nebraska thing was what it was, man. That's a huge situation for him. And to say yes to that made perfect sense. Now, he talks about his wife and how excited they were to get back to Orlando. He also talks about the fact, and this, this being around the history of UCF better than I do, that 2017 squad that went undefeated, like that team really propelled, I think, UCF into a Power Four conference. Like that whole deal. I mean, there was a lot of stuff around that, right? But if you could point at one thing, at least me, that's responsible for UCF being in the Big 12, that might be it. And I just think it's a perfect marriage. And I think he's the right guy for this job. And UCF they're not like a sleeping giant. They're just like, because I really believe like it will be tapped back into soon. It's just going to take a minute, you know?
I'm curious. Obviously, you're calling the game this Saturday. I'm sure in preparation you watched UCF's first contest against Jacksonville State. Yeah. So knowing Scott Frost and kind of knowing what he's kind of been offensively and kind of a guru title, all that good stuff, what did you think you were going to see before you turned the tape on? And what did you actually think after you watched the tape of that first game against Jacksonville State?
Well, we all remember like, UCF fast and the tempo. And that's not what we saw last Thursday night. And I don't know that the weather had much to do with that. I just think, that first play of the game when Cam Francher just overthrows a wide receiver, I forget who it was right now, but I saw the same thing at Houston with Connor Wegman. His first pass had a wide open guy down the sidelines, the guy who transferred from Alabama to Houston, and he overthrew him. It's just like excitement, it's jitters, whatever it is. Those home run balls ending up as completions totally changed the complexion of both of those games. And I thought that like that was the beginning of, okay, we're going to have to run the football here. And even one of the biggest passing plays of the evening was Miles Montgomery, right? Like 64 yards on a short pass, not a run and not a long pass. So I think that one, it was taking what the defense gave them, whether it was Cam Francher or Taven Jackson. But I do think that is not who Scott Frost is. I think he would like to take more shots down the field. I think he said as much after the game. It's one thing to take what they give you, but I think he'll want to be a little bit more aggressive with Steve Cooper there coming up in this game against A&T. That's what I think, because you got to establish that.
I'm curious what you thought of Taven Jackson. I don't know how much you know of his story, but not named the starter coming out of camp, yeah. Right? A kid with P4 pedigree out of Indiana and Tennessee. I think a lot of folks assumed that he would be the guy, right, just based on that pedigree. Cam Fancher gets the start, lasts all of 27 plays before he gets absolutely drilled on a blindside blitz. His status still in doubt, according to Scott Frost. But what did you make of what you saw of Taven Jackson coming into that game with a huge weather delay, obviously playing a tough Jacksonville State defense and Charles Kelly? What did you make of what you saw of Taven Jackson?
I mean, I got to say, I loved it. I mean, there was the one fumble, but he got threw for almost 300 yards in a half, basically. Sure. And he was efficient. And from what I've heard, same as what you guys have heard from Scott Frost, is like he really took that pretty well. Like when it was announced that he would be number 2. Guys at this age, and especially in this era, and I know this from talking to a ton of other coaches, like they can check out in moments like that. Sure. Like they can be like, whoever their representation is or whatever, they can be like, all right, where am I going next? I mean, it's really not crazy to think that way. For me and you, it is. But like now that's kind of like the new mindset. So for him to dig in and really take his lumps, and then when he was called upon to show, not just to be like, oh, yeah, I'm ready, but he showed he was ready. I thought that said a lot. And I am, just as somebody who's like a fan now, I'm a fan, always a fan of football, but I'm like, why aren't you going to start him? For sure. But he hasn't made that announcement. And that's why Scott Frost knows so much more about football than I ever will. But, we're going to, whether it's a wait and see because it's strategy, the guys on the other side of the ball, this isn't about North Carolina A&T, but they got 2 quarterbacks too. They had one guy start the game. He threw a couple picks. They put the second guy in, Braxton Wilson, and he did really well. And I think they're going to name him the starting quarterback, but you could probably see 2 quarterbacks for North Carolina A&T on Saturday. And it's happening. I mean, this is specific to these 2 teams, but you do see more so than ever, Adam, like coming down the stretch to the start of a season, the starting quarterback is named like the week before or like 3 days before. That's not how it usually is. You have a really good idea of who your quarterback's going to be coming into camp because you've had probably or hopefully a lot of time with them, whether it's been spring ball or having them on campus as an underclassman. It's just much different now. So we're literally learning about these guys like on the field playing before our eyes, whether we've seen them play in other places before. Now we're seeing them where they're supposed to be fitting in and producing right now, and it takes a minute.
Well, it's probably not a game that they all want you to judge them by, Pete. I'm curious, anybody else from UCF really stand out to you when you kind of cut the tape on and watch that week 1 contest against Jack State?
Yeah, Miles Montgomery. Like when you think about the fact that obviously a Cincinnati transfer, but last year obviously in the shadows and for good reason, right behind RJ Harvey. But now he's given his chance, and what I liked about his effort was, one, it seems like, you know, he is a warrior and he is the bell cow, and it seems like he got better as the game went on. And you got to love that if you're Scott Frost, right? And also, I believe that Scott Frost would have liked to have gotten other running backs involved, but that became what was working. And you just keep going to what's working. And I think that is why Miles Montgomery stood out to me, because they couldn't get away from him in a sense. Like with I think 160 yards total offense, he was just a critical part of what UCF was trying to do. And I think, like, Scott Frost, if he could have, you know, drawn it up, you know, the ending probably would have wanted it to look a different way. But they went to him because they had to go to him, and he answered. He answered the bell, which I thought was pretty cool, because it goes back to our first question, like, you know, what were your impressions of Scott Frost and the offense? Well, I think once they realized in that second half, like, hey, this is what we're going to do after the delay, and this is what's going to work. I mean, that touchdown to win the game was set up by the running game, you know, so it all started right there. So Montgomery, I thought, you can tell he's just the leader of this team. And every time Scott Frost gets a chance to tell us that, that's what he does. So you've got to be like, I can't wait. We get a chance to talk to these guys. You know, I'll talk to Coach Frost, obviously Coach Grinch and Coach Cooper on Friday. And I can't wait to see like an elongated version of what he has to say about Miles Montgomery, because I think it's phenomenal to see a guy that waited his turn really take advantage and embrace the opportunity and succeed.
I'm curious, what's when you sit down with Scott Frost, what's your first question to him going to be? What's the first thing that you want to know, or what's the thing that you're most curious to learn from Scott Frost?
Well, I say, what restaurant were you looking forward to going back to most when you came to Orlando? I really will ask him that. And then I would love to ask, like, you know, what's remaining from, you know, like some of the stuff on the walls, right?
Sure,
because it wasn't that long ago from when he was here before. And I want to find out what. Because we know Adam, but we don't know. And it was based on your first question. What is the identity of this team heading into week 2? Like, who are you guys? And one of the things, like, you played Jack State. I think you did have the opportunity, because the game was probably closer than they would have liked. You kind of learn more about your team in games like that than you had planned on learning about them. Like, you know, I'm here in Central Texas, right? So Baylor's a big topic of discussion. And I had on my show today, I got a chance to talk to Craig James, right? Former SMU Pony Express. And I was asking him about SMU and Baylor. And he said, you know, it's funny, SMU, they took care of business in week 1, but Baylor probably knows who they are now, right? After that week 1 loss to Auburn, like a very good first week SEC opponent. So I'm really interested to see what Scott Frost has to answer when I ask what the identity is, because you know, they probably did learn a lot about their team because of how close it was and because of in the fashion the game was won. But I would love to know what this identity is.
What's the state of this UCF team as it relates to the rest of the Big 12? Obviously, in every power ranking I've seen this week, every poll, there's UCF at 16, right? The first 2 years under Gus Malzahn did not go well. Obviously, he's no longer here. And Scott Frost is here. What's the thoughts about UCF, you think, conference wide as they enter their 3rd year in the Big 12?
Well, I can tell you, I think that they're grossly underrated. I thought that all off season. You just can't stick UCF in the basement and say, okay, here's where they are. Kind of almost to say is like, this is where they belong. I don't believe that. I think based on what we talked about at the top, right, all the turnover, you're going to have problems sort of making a case for yourself to be any kind of like preseason favorite. But there are more questions than answers around this UCF team right now, which can be a good thing. I mean, honestly, the reason they stopped doing these Big 12 preseason polls is because last year Arizona State was in the bottom, and it kind of made it funky for them to get into the college football playoff. Like it maybe was a little bit more of a fist fight than they would have liked because they were cellar dwellers to start the season. So lest anyone think that the people that are in charge of making these polls or voting on this stuff, that they know, exactly what they're doing. That's not the truth. A lot of times what we're doing is we're voting based on history and things from the past, and we just don't know. So when you think about UCF, I think you look at Scott Frost. I think you look at his track record the last time he was here. Now a much different landscape, being in a different conference, and the sport has changed somewhat even over the course of a few years. But I think that's really promising to have him back into a place where he knows people know him. He knows how to get things done. And then it comes down to, okay, you guys, you have a huge alumni base, huge. I mean, UCF is a rather new school, but the alumni base is all over the place. And I think that those numbers can help you with money down the stretch, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be, how much money do you have? How much money are you going to put into your program? But I wouldn't sleep on UCF.
Now, Pete has me very curious about where Scott Frost likes to eat. That doesn't normally come up in the Monday media availability, but I'm curious to what answer he gets.
Full interview with Pete Souza will be out at 9 p.m. on the Suns YouTube channel. We talked a lot more, probably another 15 minutes or so. Pete's a really good study of the Big 12, obviously host Inside the 12. So a good follow on social media as well at PD Souza. So 9 p.m. full interview out there on Suns YouTube.
You will also find on Suns YouTube this week's Pegasus podcast, Around the Kingdom, all kinds of content. Here's a little mashup of that.
They were just warming up in hoodies almost, it looked like. So no pads.
Brian, really quick, Brian, what color were those hoodies?
They happen to be gold. I don't know.
Well,
if
look
you
at
know
this. Look at this now.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did,
have you been scouring the internet since that time to try to figure out if those are for sale anywhere in the
world? They are
not
not for sale anywhere that I've seen. So
I just would love to see things look more seamless. Clean up those pre-snap issues. Complete the easy screen passes that you were somehow throwing behind the line of scrimmage for fumbles, and make the plays that were there, because I think that's the other thing, is that like plays were there, they just didn't hit them. Like you mentioned it too, it's
the problem. You're overthinking it. That's the problem. You overthink this. Ooh, he's intangibles. He knows the system. But is he the best guy? Can he throw the football? How is he under the bright lights, Trace? It seems this is a long pattern, not just with Scott, but other coaches.
Eric Lopez likes to use my first name
He does.
creatively, doesn't he?
He
Trace.
He does. People like you, Trace.
Yes, I remember that. Women's soccer off to the best start in program history, and that's why we asked Nick Williams to head to the UCF Soccer Complex tonight to take in the action. He joins us now live. Nick, are the Knights off to a 6-0 start? Where are we in this game?
Trace, I'm not quite sure that's going to happen. We're in the final 9 minutes of this game, and there's only been one goal, and it's been from FIU in the 8th minute of the game, my Montheline Diamond. And the Knights, although they have 2 shots on goal, nothing's working out for them, Trace. I mean, absolutely cannot keep possession of the ball.
It doesn't sound good, Nick. Maybe we won't send you out to the UCF Soccer Complex anymore.
Am I the bad luck charm? Did I hype it up too much about the streak that they're on? Best program start? Maybe.
What's your first question if this is the final outcome to head coach Tiffany Roberts-Sahedek?
What went wrong out there? I mean,
let me know how that goes.
Good luck.
Check back with us. Let me know how that goes. Phrase like that. That's Nick Williams live at the UCF Soccer Complex. How much now time? 8 minutes? A little under?
We are at the 8:30 mark left in the game.
All right. There's still time, Nick. Nick Williams out at the UCF Soccer Complex. Thanks for joining us live.
Thank you, guys.
I see a cause and effect here, Adam. We asked Nick.
Well, I see a new intern needed if he asked that question post-game. So we want to find someone else to handle that beat going forward, Trace.
So the temperature check, setting that one up for you, Adam. A little down right now for women's soccer. This time is running out.
That temperature is down, Trace. But luckily for us, we have a new sponsor. Knights fans, just like football, life is all about momentum. That's why Our friends here built Temp Check. It's an app that keeps your circle connected, motivated, and real. Whether you're celebrating a win or pushing through a tough week, Temp Check makes sure your people are right there with you. Download Temp Check today. It's not just an app, it's a movement. You can find it on the Google App Store. You can find it on the Apple App Store. Again, founded by UCF alumni. So go to either of those places and download Temp Check today. It's a momentum, everybody. Charge on.
Temperature check out in Tampa. Men's soccer right now, under 20 minutes ago, 1-1 with number 22 South Florida. Little revival of the war on I-4. UCF gave up a goal early, and Clarence Aguilar tied it in the 26th minute. Knights are 1-3. They dropped a game 2-1 at home on Sunday to number 23 UNC Greensboro. So I'm not saying it's a must win, but you don't want to dig yourself a big hole early on in non-conference play. And next they have Jacksonville at home next Thursday at 7.
Trace, the Knights opened the Matt Botsford era in volleyball with a sweep over the weekend. They are now 3-0 on the season. However, they're heading to Miami this weekend where they have triple header here: Stetson, Miami, and FIU Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we'll see what the Knights volleyball crew is made of after they take on some pretty tough opponents down there in actual South Florida.
And it's September. You don't expect to hear baseball announcements, but a couple of scheduling announcements from head coach Rich Wallace, including an exhibition game against FIU October 11th, about a month or so away in Key West, of all places. And Nick Williams was out on campus earlier, spoke with Coach Wallace, who explains how this one came together.
Yeah, and Jack Niles, a friend of mine that has a lot to do with Key West and Key West high school baseball and just almost everything Key West. We talked about this opportunity to get a college game down there in a different setting that could benefit not only the community of Key West, but us and whoever we played. And Rich Whitten, who coached here at one time, was all about it. And I think for us, with 30 new guys, to be able to get them on the bus and drive down there, spend 2 nights, play a quality opponent, practice down there, and talk about team building opportunities. There's nothing better than putting guys on a bus and getting them around each other and playing in a competitive game.
Nothing like getting guys on a bus. Now, the number he just said was 30 new players. How much will that number fluctuate as we go?
Yeah, let's just move that up north a little bit. Let's make it 40 by the time we're done with this
redshirt freshman pitcher Anthony Laris is from the Keys, Key West High School, so a little return to home for him. The other announcement, UCF set to play in the Live Like Lou Jacks College Baseball Classic, Jacksonville, February 20 through 22. That's a field that includes Indiana, reigning champion LSU, and you may have heard of this other school, Notre Dame, where Rich Wallace was on staff from 2020 to 2022. Turney brings awareness to ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, of course, the major leaguer who lost his battle with that back in the 1940s. So that is a stacked field. Interesting scheduling moves from Rich Wallace.
Trace, I've been to that ballpark. It's here in Jax. It's where the Jumbo Shrimp play. Really nice ballpark, a nice little quaint atmosphere as well. So for folks maybe looking to take in a game, great ballpark, great atmosphere, great teams. UCF will be there. I think it's a fun ticket. I think I might actually go. I think right now, pencil me in. Pencil, don't not
fan not or ink. Credentialed.
Whatever the Suns need, Trace. I'm here to help the people. Whatever the people need, I will do. If I don't, poor Nick, he's probably going to get named this evening, so maybe you'll need.
So if at that point. UCF loses, will you start with Coach?
No, really, I like the beard on Coach Wallace. He kind of grew out the beard this offseason. I kind of like what he's got a good look going for himself there.
A little bit more of that interview will be dropping soon on Sun's YouTube. Nick Williams with Rich Wallace, and we appreciate Coach carving out a little bit of time for us. Is that time, Adam?
Speaking of guys with beards.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
Hi, fellas.
You love that soundbite. As soon as you saw it, you said, you're working that in the show. Of course, we open the mailbag on Mondays most weeks and open it for a couple of days leading up to the show. Scott Leinart with, should Taven Jackson be our starting quarterback, was a question that came in. You do feel like it was trending in that direction, a little bit more clarity this Thursday, and you feel good about the decision by Coach Frost and staff.
Well, based on what you saw in game one, he clearly was the quarterback who performed better. Obviously, Cam Fancher not able to go this week. I'm curious though, Trace. You and I have talked a lot about this. I just find it hard to believe we can't find a way to get Jakari Brown on the field. That's something I'm curious to see if this takes place on Saturday. There's got to be packages in there where Jakari Brown, with his athleticism, can really stretch the defense a little bit. So I'm curious to see if we see JB on the field on Saturday.
UCF with a question right up your alley. Would you rather?
Yeah.
Is this fight 100 ducks or whatever those questions you come up with? I got the mailbag, but not the mailbag. The what's in the box.
It's fine.
My turn for that one. Would you rather stay for an entire game during a Thursday nighter complete with a 2-hour weather delay or a 95-degree Saturday noon scorcher? What would you rather?
All right, I thought long and hard about this one. Give me the weather delay, because in a noon scorcher, I might need some shade. So if I have to walk off the the stands there or whatever, my seat, I miss game action. With the storm, there's no game being played. So I could go to safety, I could go get coverage. And as soon as that was over, I could go back and watch the game. Plus, if it's at night, I do like that without the heat. So I'm going to be a sicko here. Give me the 2-hour rain delay, because at least I'm not missing any game action.
Yeah, how was that weather delay for you on Thursday?
That was fine. Yeah, no, it was good. I got to flip the TV.
Room.
But listen, I was one of the very few people, I know you were there as well, who stayed in 2021 to the end of the Boise game. That was like a 1 a.m. situation. And that was a really fun atmosphere because it was just a small crowd, people kind of cheering, a come from behind victory. So give me the weather delay over bacon in the sun. The guy, I'm not necessarily one that tans, if you couldn't tell.
At Nights 24/7. Great name on Blue Sky. Does your projection on how many games UCF will win change after that Jack State game? No. I still feel the same. Not swayed.
Yeah, I had them winning that game. It didn't happen the way I thought it would happen, but I had them winning that game. So, and it's one game, first game of the season. I know Ryan said it was kind of ugly, but speaking of Nights 247, I was talking to Latavius Murray, name drop, the other day, and he said, "A win is a win. Don't apologize how you get them." So let's take the win and move on to this week and see if you can build on that.
Dr. Snap and Pop, although lack of execution, first game jitters played a role last Thursday. How do you guys like the play calling, play design from the bit we saw? I like what we saw. And, with confidence in Taven Jackson, maybe see a little bit more.
Second half was obviously better than the first half. I think Frost and Steve Cooper and Alex Grinch kind of clued us in on. They didn't know what to expect. So Alex Grinch, on his presser, Trace talked a lot about, they ran a lot of base coverage, a lot of base concept from what they practiced in the fall. So perhaps that second half allowed them to dial in a little bit better and be more schematic. Obviously now one game of tape for them to scout for North Carolina A&T. So my hope is a play calling will get better. So I think the second half was better, but I think it's because they had something to build off of once they saw what the defense was giving them.
And Andrew Cherico, how would you like to see Jaden Nixon get more involved next week? Yes. Every way, anyway.
Very much so, yes.
Blocking.
Who carries? Well,
running.
Who carries for 1 yard, obviously, with a big loss is not what we expected from Jaden Nixon. Frost talked about after the game, Trace, he wanted to get more guys touches, wants to make sure guys get the football, particularly in the backfield, that he has trust in, the guys behind Miles Montgomery. So I suspect we'll see a little bit more Jaden Nixon toting the rock on Saturday.
How much of that, by the way, also is that they don't want to wear Miles down? We haven't spoken a lot about this, but he did have some injuries last season, and a 12-game campaign would give him more touches most likely than he has had in his collegiate career.
I mean, running backs only have so many hits on their body, right? So the more you can alleviate some of those hits taking place, and that's why you bring in a Jaden Nixon, right? Because you think he can carry the ball for you and spell Miles. That's why you have a young Stacey Gage, because you think he can do the same. So
this is a time for them.
I assume the game plan or the game flow on last Thursday kind of dictated some of that for UCF, but you brought those guys in to take hits off Miles' body. Now's the time to use that.
At Lonely B UCF, will Miles see more snaps under center than Jakari in Second Frost 2, the sequel?
Well, it's interesting. I took the phrasing specifically. Under center? No, I don't think you put Miles under center. Now, maybe he'll see someone kind of that wildcat, but I don't think you'll ever see Miles Montgomery under center. He's not I like Miles a lot, by the way. He's obviously a very strong individual. Not the tallest guy in the world, so I don't know that you want him doing like that pile leap situation. So I don't think you see Miles under center.
Mr. Matt Dolan, fill in the blank. The North Carolina loss was blank times more embarrassing than UCF's Big 12 debut loss to Baylor. 100 times.
This brings
It's
up
terrible.
this is the age-old question that we've debated before, Trace. Would you rather your team get blown out early, or would you rather lose in a heartbreaker? Because that's really what this means, right? North Carolina, this game was over really by the time the second quarter ticked around, right? Where UCF, we had to wait till the last play. Would you rather get blown out and know it's over and start to accept it and move on with your life, or have your heart broken at the last second?
I think it's so of that. I think the North Carolina loss was much worse with the hype surrounding it.
Well, sure, when you add in those factors, absolutely. But I think I'd rather be heartbroken because at least we had a chance. You're invested in the game. It's going to sting.
But you can
for a
point
while.
to things in that game that cost you. Where when you lose 41-14,
It's
you
just,
go,
what do
"We
you
were
do?"
bad
Yeah.
all around."
Absolutely, yeah.
By the way, that opening drive by North Carolina was just beautiful, and then the wheels just completely fell off.
Freddie Kitchens had those first 10 plays ready to roll. Play 11 through whatever, unfortunately, did not work out as
But
well.
that first
for the
drive.
North Carolina offense.
At Golden Knight _ second, which scoring method is more satisfying and entertaining to watch? Touchdown through offense, defense, or special teams?
I said special teams because you don't expect a touchdown on special teams. So
Not if
typically
you're a UCF fan.
Fair. Typically, you're looking at your nachos, right? You got your phone out, and all of a sudden you hear the crowd yell, and someone's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And then the excitement kind of builds. So, obviously, offense you expect touchdowns, defense it's fun, but I'm gonna go special teams because I think those often to spark a team and sort of spark a momentum. So, give me special teams.
I think the answer is special teams. I think we see a lot more scoring, well, in previous years with the offense, but a good pick six could electrify the crowd as well. So
I do like
idiot
pick six. Yeah.
_I4. Now this is a complicated. What are these long questions here? Give me a reason as to how UCF could win each game this year. UCF could beat Kansas State because they nearly lost to an FCS team, being Kansas State to North Dakota. That's too many. That's 11 games.
It's 11 games.
That's a lot of games. How about we just make this? UCF will beat FCS North Carolina A&T because. I mean, it's just.
How about we make it this? UCF's not going to beat anybody with that offense we saw through the first three quarters, right? So I think that's the thing that has to be fixed and focused on, right? Kansas is looking good right now. Cincinnati loses a tough one. Baylor loses a tough one to Auburn. So I think it's still too early to tell. Texas Tech, we'll see what they're about. They blew somebody out that I never heard of before. So give me a couple of weeks before I know that. But I do think you're starting to see some of the Big 12 pack come together a little bit. And Kansas State, a team that many thought perhaps would contend for the title, maybe crashing down to earth. No pun intended to Avery Johnson's family.
Text message from Nick Williams out at UCF Soccer Complex. Please don't fire me. Now, see, that's just
what happened. Did we lose?
I don't know, but that may mean that game's probably over now. You're usually the fact checker during the Around the Kingdom. At Riley Carey 16, should the NCAA consider having a trade deadline with all the drama with players wanting contracts when they don't deserve a contract yet? Right. Part of the thrill of college football is the dysfunction, right? And the never-ending chatter on shows like ours. The NFL model works, right? They have got the whole calendar year factored in. By the way, NCAA proposal under consideration is that transfer window being the first week of January. One window. I agree with that. But it's still, with the way the bowl season is now stretched beyond January 1, I think the proposal is January 2 through 10.
Yep.
Teams that are in the playoffs and that's still going to possibly impact them during the month of January, but much better than that week in December. And again, in this, much better.
I don't know about trade deadline because I don't know how many trades are happening in college football. I do think one portal window is helpful. I do think getting to, you basically have 5 years to play 4 seasons. I think that will be helpful as well. So maybe you don't have these opt-outs and some of the other stuff happening midseason.
At UCF Knights win with all the roster turnover in college ball, we have to be nearing a point where the schools skip an in-house fall. Are we nearing a point where they skip a fall scrimmage in favor of some sort of exhibition game against other teams? You know why I don't rule that out, though? Money.
Yeah.
Money.
You can sell it. Yeah.
You don't want to risk injury. Of course, Scott Frost had him doing Oklahoma drills at one practice that, was. But You could sell some tickets, couldn't you, to an exhibition with an FAU, an FIU, or something? Well, you could.
Well,
sell
look, I think it would help coaches, right? Like as you're making decisions on quarterback, like at UCF, right? If you had a preseason game to maybe try some stuff out, maybe you make a different decision offensively. People forget Colorado and Syracuse tried to do this. I think in Dion's second year at Colorado, and the NCAA said no, they were not allowed to. They tried to do some form of a scrimmage together. So, but I do think it could be helpful in some respects. You know, NFL does it obviously from a 3-game clip. So perhaps one preseason game wouldn't be the worst thing. Now, injury again, I think is the challenge. NAL contracts, all that stuff. I think there's still so much to work out, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a glimpse of your team playing another team before you turn the lights on for the first time for the season.
Hey, UCF Knights win with another one. In honor of Big Paul Rubelt, someone walks into the press box with a box full of Jersey Mike subs during a weather delay. Which sub are you choosing? Not a big sub guy, the big bread guy, meatball, anything with the meatball.
Number 9, Club Supreme, turkey and roast beef, provolone cheese, bacon. Mike's way without the mayo, though. I don't like mayo.
Yeah, not a big sub guy anyway. But at UCF_Zach, should Terry's job be safe? Here we go. If UCF wins 3 or fewer games this season, isn't it rumored, not official, that he's gotten a contract extension?
There's a contract extension floating out there. I think Matt Murchell, others have reported that. I don't know if we have a status on that. Look, if it's 3 wins this season, I say yes, just because I think we all recognize there's a rebuild process in place here. But do you see appreciable change in the team? Do you see the team is at least making strides, the program making strides? So I think yes, Terry's probably safe for this year if they win 3 games, but he's probably even safer because he may have a nice contract extension sitting on his desk.
Another question from UCF_Zach. Will UCF Athletics be brave enough to play gold digger during the North Carolina game? Whatever would Zach be referring to, Adam?
Well, I want to turn the tables, Ryan. So Boda style. Do you happen to have any idea who might be the artists who perform the hit single Gold Digger?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Kanye West and Jamie Foxx, oddly enough, are the duo that bring you Gold Digger. I thought I saw recently that Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan were trying to.
Is that how she pronounces it?
There's an O. There's not an A at the end, so it's Jordan, not Jordan. That they were trying to trademark something to do with Gold Digger. I know they trademarked like Chapel Bill, some other stuff. I think they were trying to trademark Gold Digger. So we may have to strike now before we get some sort of a cease and desist from Jordan and Bill Belichick.
And a third question. We allow 3 questions every once in a while. Should fans rush the field if UCF is able to pull the upset against North Carolina A&T? All right, enough of that nonsense. All right.
I say reverse. Players coming to the stands. If we beat North Carolina A&T, bring the players to the stands. Reverse.
Speaking of field rushes, if you're going to run around on the field, okay, which I do not condone, you got to do it better than was done on the field during the weather delay.
Listen, that gal had some moves. She had some
not thought out at all. You just run through the tunnel. Does anybody getting
really
away?
Plan these out? Like I don't really. I also wonder why the police didn't just let her run around for like 20 minutes, tire herself out, and then just no one else was out there. Where is she going to go? Right? Let her run around, let her tire herself out, then go pick her up. I think that could have worked out as well. It'd have been funny.
All right. Hey, it's that time for.
Oh, hey, Alumni Hall, 4100 North Alafaya Trail, corner of Alafaya University. Fans wear black this Saturday. It's also Military Appreciation Day. So if you don't have that gear, head over to Alumni Hall before the game. Get yourself stocked on stuff. Always have 2 for $38 champion t-shirts, Alumni Hall, or online, alumnihall.com/UCF.
We're going to rotate back and forth on these questions throughout the season. Now, what's too early, Adam, to decorate for Halloween? Now, I threw this question in because I pulled out of my subdivision last week, which was August, and I'm going down the road, and on the right, one of these, I don't know, 75-foot skeletons like you get at Home Depot.
That's a tall skeleton, by the way.
I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, August? Decorate however you want in your house. But I pass the skeleton every day. Well, too early. October 1 for Halloween. You get 31 days.
Yeah.
Put the giant skeleton out in your yard. August, 95 degrees. No. The question was to you.
No, it was to
Great.
me, but it sounded like you wanted to answer yourself.
No,
So
I
don't want to get in your way here. Anything else you want to chat about there?
No.
I think Dolly has the right answer. September 30th, October 1st. I think that gets you right around the right. I don't have the calendar in front of me. Whatever that first weekend is, that kind of leads into to Halloween. I think that's probably your sweet spot from a decoration. August, way too early. But Trace, I have a guy in my my neighborhood here. He has one of those like large skeleton. It's not
How
75 feet. It's not 75 feet, by the way. It's 12 feet. I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
it's bigger than
12 feet.
that. It's bigger than the house.
It's not 75 feet. Anyway, so
Well,
he
all right,
has it
maybe that's-
outside his front yard at all times and just wraps it in something different for the holiday. So President's Day, Abraham Lincoln beard or whatever, like top.
It's out year round?
Year round. Year round.
No,
St. Patrick's Day, he's got a shamrock hat on.
This is
4th
not
of
an
July,
HOA community.
It's uncles. It is an HOA community, and I'm surprised he has not gotten any sort
It's
of.
an HOA
up
community?
there. Trace, everything in Florida's HOA these days. And he just finds a way to keep dressing it up, my friend. Robert, positing you're anti-decoration.
No. It's the timing. That's it.
Whoa, hold
That's the
on.
timing.
I mean, as this often does, Trace, this branches into other questions. Dolly wants to know your best Halloween costume as a kid.
Some sort of skeleton thing. I think I was Incredible Hulk one time. I have the physique for it. Can pull it off.
like 2 years ago, or
What's really interesting is I went to a Halloween party while at UCF. I have a picture of this where I'm dressed up as the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. Zero memory of that party. I do not remember that party happening.
What happened?
I think I had a lot to drink. I don't think I remember anything about that. Silver face is okay, right? If photos,
I don't think we should. That's not. I think
silver.
I don't know how to best do this to crowdsource it. So maybe I'll just give me thumbs up or answers here. Robert has a statement he wants to make, and I want to know.
All right.
I want to understand if the audience agrees with this. That you would be an HOA board member.
No. My neighbors.
You strike me.
No.
You strike me.
I don't have
HOA.
time for that. No, I don't want. No, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want people asking me things. I don't want to know. No.
Yeah, well, you would be prototype. What I would think would be a HOA guy.
I have a meeting conflict that goes up against the HOA board meeting anyway once a month. No.
Has anybody approached you about joining the board?
Oh yeah.
Oh, see, yeah. Okay, there we go.
I'm methodical and organized.
I've heard about that about you. You're fastidious in your approach.
Women's soccer loses their first game of the season, 1-0 to FIU. We're in the waning minutes in Tampa. UCF tied with the Cows 1-1. So what's your parents' weekend? You have a daughter at UCF.
I do have a daughter. That's correct.
Weekend.
Yeah, we will be there for a parents' weekend. We'll be hanging out watching the game. I guess my second time I've been to UCF since my daughter's been there. So be a fun little weekend. Obviously, it's a whole different situation when you have a child that goes there. So looking forward to seeing you, Trace, and seeing everybody out there as well. So can't wait to meet up. Hopefully the weather will hold off. Can I get a weather update from anybody?
Your wife's going to this game?
My wife will be there. My son will be there.
They're doing this Jello shot thing.
I saw that.
Could I accompany her over to the?
I don't. This got awkward in a hurry. I don't really know. It's really got awkward here. Sounds like Patrick Nurse might go with you. I don't really know. I think. Listen, I think you are of. Just tell me on their HOA board. But I think you are of a stature at UCF that if you walk through Memory Mall, snap your fingers and say Jello shot, that people will bring you one.
Well, may have
Plus,
to
we have
test
interns,
that.
so
We
just
have
have
to
one of
test
the interns.
that out. We have to hang out with the interns.
Have Nick Williams go grab you one. He owes you one after that debacle of a soccer match.
Want to thank Ryan Swoboda, who did pretty good, right? Talking O-lineman. We'll bring
he's
him
good.
back on as a guest. Now, wait, we interviewed him one other time, didn't we?
Yes, we did. He's never been on Suns Live before.
No,
so this
not
is his
Suns
first Suns Live appearance. But yes, there is a sit-down, long-form interview. Me, you, Ryan Swoboda. Probably 2022 he left, so probably sometime in that early 2023 era. You'll find that probably on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, by the way, Pete Souza available now.
We should leave so you can go watch Pete Souza.
I've already seen it. I don't need to watch
Rich
it, but
Wallace
you might want to.
Sometime soon. Complete coverage from UCF, North Carolina A&T on Saturday for Adam Eaton. I'm Trace Trucco. Go Knights.
Charge on.
Philip Dunham, safety. Thank you for watching the Sons of UCF.
good fantasy selection.
He had a good game. No, he made a couple good
he did.
tackles. He was around the football. I like what I'm
I
saying.
like him.